Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Mr. Daniel Yu, global strategist at Yuanta Securities. Mr. Yu, thank you as always for making time today.
Thank you very much for having me always.
Now, Wall Street was closed on Monday, of course, for a public holiday, but coming off new record highs set last Friday. Aside from the U.S., though, what's the story in the global markets today?
Right. As you said, global market seems to show some correction after a very strong run that we have seen in the last few weeks. If you look at the Korean Kospi, it was down by 1%. Also, the Kosdaq is down by around 1% as well. Before the Lunar Year holidays, Asian markets in general are taking some breather. For example, if you look at the Chinese market, yesterday the market was quite strong with the Shenzhen index rising by 1.5%, but it's right down back to the previous level by down by 1.5%. The main reason for this volatility that we're seeing is because Moody has downgraded the Hong Kong outlook from stable to negative because of continued riots and issues with political uncertainties. And also, if you look at the IMF, IMF have said that they are looking to much economic growth rate to remain sluggish, even though it has bottomed out in 2019 and is recovering slightly. But they are looking into 3.5% growth rate for next year. So with that, I think that people just need to take some breather because the market has been very strong in the last several weeks.
Well, now, the U.S. Senate is about to begin opening arguments in President Trump's impeachment trial. The chances of him being removed from office, though, are understood to be almost zero. Is this a factor in the markets at all?
Well, I think that when the markets are so strong, I think that people would take anything to be some kind of news. Even though the chance of President Trump being impeached will be very, very minuscule, people will be concerned of that the trial is actually happening. As the President Trump's impeachment trial opens, his lawyers have increasingly emphasized the various arguments that this thing doesn't make any sense. And at the end of the story, if you look at the Senate, it is 53-47 Republican majorities. And in order for the impeachment to happen, you need 2/3 of votes. So the conviction is going to be very unlikely the case. And therefore, people are not too concerned. But nevertheless, because the market's been so strong in the past, therefore, they're looking for any kind of excuse to take some money out of the table. So I think that this incident is where people are just a bit concerned, but I don't think that it will have a real major impact. But for the time being, we'll be watching closely how this develops.
Right, and if the Republicans have their way, that'll be over in early February. But in the meantime, the head of the IMF, as you said just a minute ago, recently compared the global economy right now to the roaring 20s, as they were before the Great Depression. The IMF's economic outlook, of course, now lower than it was recently. What do you make of her remarks and that forecast? Right, I think that, the estimation is a bit too overestimated per se, because it's not really the crisis territories. But she talks about the possibility of the risk. The IMF have warned that the global economy, the world economy, is increasingly vulnerable to the impact of the climate emergencies. As the Washington-based organization downgraded its forecast for 2020 and 2021. But if you look at the numbers, they're talking about 2.9% for last year, and then going up to 3.3, 3.4%, which is a moderate recovery. It's not a recessionary implications. But, they do talk about this possibility of the climate control or climate changes that might have a massive negative effect that we've seen in Australia fire, and further to have some impact on various other countries. Clearly, I think that Davos Forum that's coming through, people will discuss on this issues, and climate control is major importance. And also, because of that, sectors related to that would have very strong run in the future. People are worried about the growth rate, but nevertheless, it is a fairly stable growth. So we are looking into Goldilocks phase. If Goldilocks phase happens, then the stocks that are focused will be rising further, and the stocks that were not focused will continue to be a lagger. So we do think that we continue to focus on the growth stocks, such as 5G-related stocks or alternative energy-related stocks or ESG-related stocks.
All right, Mr. Yu, we'll have to leave it there for today. Thank you again for coming on and sharing your insights.
Thank you very much.